To be completely honest, waiting is not a favorite activity for most people. This is particularly true when we are anticipating changes or improvements, as waiting can be an incredibly exasperating experience. However, waiting on God is undoubtedly the most challenging form of waiting. When God compels us to wait for improvements or changes in our lives, it can feel like nothing is happening. Despite this, the Bible repeatedly instructs us to wait on the Lord. The most daunting position to find yourself in is God's waiting room, where you may currently be. God's waiting room is when you're eager for something to happen, but God is not. Some of you may be eagerly anticipating graduation or marriage, and as such, are currently in God's waiting room. There are those who are eager to start a family, while others are eager to launch a new business or secure a major deal. Some may be in a rush to accomplish big goals or achieve their dreams. People are in a hurry for all sorts of reasons, yet it seems that God is not in a rush at all. Waiting is something that we, as humans, have a hard time with, particularly when it comes to waiting on God. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you're in a hurry for God to act, praying fervently for Him to come through, and wondering why He hasn't? It's like waiting in a life's waiting room, and the impatience can be unbearable. Many of us find ourselves wanting God to act quickly and provide us with what we desire right now. It is understandable that some of you may feel discouraged and ready to give up when waiting for God to come through for you. It's important to remember that God's sense of timing may not be the same as ours. We learn to trust God the most during the waiting periods of life. It is in these challenging times where we are able to grow and develop our character the most. We learn to put our faith in God through the pain of waiting, and without faith, it is impossible to please God. While we work towards our goals, dreams, and visions, God is actively working on us. He is more interested in building our character than in our accomplishments, as we cannot take our achievements to heaven, but we can take our character. Sometimes God intends to fulfill our promises and answer our prayers, but the waiting period is vital for building our character. My intention is to bring my vision to fruition, but the timing is not right for you just yet. I want you to continue growing until you are ready, and then it will come to pass. Sometimes we believe we are waiting on divine intervention for our prayers to be answered. However, it is not God who is causing the holdup, but rather it is us who need the preparation. Our faith is being tested, and we are being equipped to handle a blessing that is beyond our current capacity. A delay does not mean denial, and it is important to understand this distinction. Immature individuals may not comprehend this difference and might react negatively to a delay. However, it is crucial to recognize that a delay is not a final rejection, but rather an opportunity for growth and preparation. According to divine teachings, God has a plan for every individual's life, which includes fulfilling their aspirations and desires. However, it is essential to understand that sometimes we may not be ready to receive what God has in store for us, and thus we must wait for the right time. It is not uncommon for God to wait for us to be prepared for what He has planned. What makes this waiting period so important is that it is during this time that we may be tempted by negative emotions and thoughts, such as worry, stress, anxiety, irritability, envy, and jealousy. We may feel frustrated, discouraged, and even throw a pity party for ourselves. Therefore, it is crucial to understand what God expects of us while we wait for His divine intervention in our lives. The process you're going through will be repeated many times. It is important to note that God is not like a vending machine where you insert a prayer and instantly receive what you ask for. Delays are a part of the design intended to teach you how to trust and mature in character. It is important to remember that a delay is not a denial. There is a considerable difference between no and not yet, as parents well know. Sometimes it is simply not the right time. This concept is frequently seen in the Bible, where God instructed Noah to construct an ark that would save his family from a catastrophic flood, but it did not rain for 120 years. Abraham was told that he would father a great nation, but he did not have his first child until he was 99 years old. Similarly, God informed Moses that he would lead his people out of slavery in Egypt. For more than 450 years, they had been in their situation until God sends Moses to the desert to wait for 40 years. Joseph receives a magnificent dream from God, one that he will be the one to rescue his family and his people from famine and become a great leader. However, Joseph's life takes a turn when he is sold into slavery, falsely accused, and imprisoned. He waits in prison until God elevates him to the position of second in command in all of Egypt. Through all of this, God's promise to Joseph is ultimately fulfilled. King David was anointed as king by God, but he did not ascend to the throne until many years later. Similarly, Jesus Christ spent 30 years of his life working as a carpenter before starting his earthly ministry. Therefore, it is clear that delays do not indicate denial from God. Sometimes, when God delays, we may feel forgotten. This is a common experience, and we all go through it at one point or another. We may begin to believe that God has abandoned us and that our problems are insignificant to Him. The psalmist in Psalm 10:1 expresses these same doubts, asking why the Lord stands so far away and hides in times of trouble. It is natural to feel this way, but we must remember that God never forgets us. It is imperative to note that what you are considering is utterly impossible. However, it is important to remember that God will never give up on you. He will always be invested in your life, and your current struggle is a part of His grander plan for you. Your name is even inscribed on the palms of His hands, a testament to His unyielding care for you. Your name is forever etched in God's hands, and no one can remove it. You are always on His mind and in His heart, regardless of the current trials you're facing. Although it may feel like God has forgotten you during trying times, He has a reason for delaying His timing. He knows you intimately, your heart, your desires, and your needs. If it seems like He is not answering your prayers, be patient, for His love for you never wavers. Remember, your name is tattooed on the palm of His hand, and He will never forget who you are. Frequently, we are let down by the timing of God. Perhaps you have been praying for a specific need for a prolonged period and are seeking an answer from Him. It is possible that it is a matter of urgency, and you require His response within a specific time frame. When He fails to show up when you need Him most, what conclusions do you draw? Do you question yourself, wondering if you made a mistake or if you made the wrong request? Do you find yourself asking if God hears your prayers? When God does not answer in our way or within our timeline, we frequently believe that He does not love us. However, God loves you. He does not love anyone more than He loves you, not even a single grain of sand. In the darkest moments of your life, I want you to envision Jesus looking straight through your fears and saying to you, "Trust me, I am right here." While God's timing may not always align with our desired outcomes, it is important to trust the one who controls the clock. It is natural to resist putting our faith in someone else's timing because it means relinquishing control. We would rather have God's plan for our lives, but with our own timeline. The irony is that as a parent, I see my children struggling with the same impatience when waiting on my timing. If they could trust my timing, they would see that it is for their benefit and prosperity. You can choose to live with frustration, anxiety, stress, and anger, or you can choose to rest and trust in God's timing. Believe in the timing of God. Trust in it, because it will bring you tranquility and serenity. You will be able to rid yourself of disappointment, hurt, and resentment from your heart, because you will be certain that God is in charge of your life. Why doesn't God reveal everything that will happen in your life up front? There are a few reasons. Firstly, if He did, it would probably be too overwhelming and frightening. However, the true reason is that God wants you to have faith in Him. He wants you to live one day at a time and trust that He is a benevolent and caring God. Everything that happens in your life is for your benefit, but you must rely on Him. In chapter 1 of Acts in the Bible, Jesus stated that we are not privy to information about timing. It is the Father's domain. Therefore, we may never know what will come to pass in advance. No one can predict what will happen tomorrow, let alone in the future. We are not privy to the details of our own lives, as God has a set timeline for each of us, but does not reveal the specifics in advance. It's impossible to comprehend God's every action, as only He is capable of such omniscience. His timing is not only good, but perfect, as He is aware of every detail of our lives, from the past to the present to the future. He knows our needs, wants, and the wisest course of action. Waiting for God's timing is always the right decision, as it demonstrates trust in His plan. When I wait for God, I am acknowledging that I trust Him and believe His timing is superior to my own. I will continue waiting until He grants me permission to pursue or acquire what I desire. The will of God is not to deprive us of anything, but rather to provide us with the best. However, this requires faith. This means being willing to rely on God's timing before making any decisions. If we could trust God all the time in every aspect of life, imagine how incredible it would be. Trusting God means relinquishing our attempts to control situations and waiting for His guidance. Waiting can be difficult, but it is necessary. God may not act according to our preferences or in the way we desire, but if we focus on Him and rely on Him to provide our compensation, reward, and vindication, we will receive double blessings for our struggles. Trusting God does not guarantee we will receive everything we want when we want it. My belief in trusting Him means that I have faith that God will provide me with what I need when the time is right. The mending of broken hearts and healing of bodies are possible, and disappointment can lead to the discovery of new dreams. If we place our trust in God, the end of one thing can be the beginning of something new. It may seem like God has forgotten about us, but that couldn't be further from the truth. He hears and sees us, and we are not invisible. God knows precisely where we are and what is happening in our lives. He knows our limits, and He will never be too late, but He may not come early either. I have confidence that God has our best interests at heart, and that's why I'm willing to wait. When someone declares that they have no time to waste, it is important to remember that waiting on God is never a waste of time. In fact, you will come to realize that His timing is always perfect. You can trust that God's timing will always be the right time.